Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Mosfitz, with my all-time most favorite, most wonderful, best, stupendous, tremendous, quadrendrous, whatever it is, co-host of all times, Jen Albanese. Hi, Jen.
Hey, Maury. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Good. We have a person on that I really feel like I have a kinship with. So yes. Clara, who oversees operations for multiple sports, including lacrosse, is going to come talk about her experience in that job. And it's such a job that a lot of people might not know about and maybe not fully understood, and a great opportunity for anyone that wants to work in the field of athletics. You work directly with the coaching staff, you're with the team. It's an awesome position. So I'm sure she's going to have some great things to tell us.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear from her. I'm working at Maryland. I'm sure she's got some great experience and some good tips. So I'm sure that'll be a really good conversation. I'm excited for it. So,
okay, well, we're starting off the new year, and both of us.
That's right. I was just gonna say it's New Year, like
new
wellness time,
wellness kick. And I'm gonna say that this is not going to be just a fad for me. I'm trying to make this into a lifestyle.
I know, same. And I feel like I was actually talking about this today. Like I last year when I turned 40, I really made a more conscious effort to try to continue to be healthy and eating right and, trying to stay physically active. And I did a really good job, but I want to continue it in this year where, it's more intentional, I think. And Maury's been a really great motivator.
I am cheering people on this year.
Very good motivator because he's also doing it. So Maury, tell us what you're doing.
So I have decided that, yes, I also turned the big 4-0 last year and was being more conscious about exercising, and I was running and getting on a bike, but I'm now trying to step it up to the next level because in doing some research, there's some other things that probably are important that I have not been doing, and I think I can make lifestyle changes. So Jen and I are on an app with each other where we do workouts, and I can say good job, and we push each other to go on, and we hold each other accountable because you got to do it at some point.
And it's always good to have a workout buddy. That they always say that it's good to have somebody that can push you. So yeah,
and no judgments with Jen, so that's nice too.
Exactly. No, yeah, and I think you're right, Maury. It was a good point of we can be active, but there's other decision lifestyle changes that you can make, whether it's taking vitamins more regularly, eating healthier, drinking more water, sleeping more. That's something that's really big for me. I'm a night owl, so I'm ooh, I can stay up till midnight. I know I need to go to bed at 10:30 and get a full night's rest and truly rest. And I think that's it's more than just hey, I go outside and run, because I think we're good about that. It's more of what food are you putting in your body? What kind of drinks are you drinking? That kind of stuff. So,
and I will say, I feel like it has been positive, that my body feels a little bit better. You do feel it. We were laughing.
Your energy is better. Yes.
We were laughing because you told me that the hurt is a good hurt, and I don't know what really that still means for that.
I love a good hurt sometimes. No,
I couldn't. I never related to that part of it, but it is. Now, we also are getting into a couple fads. So I am seriously.
That's all you. That's you.
No, you had one too. You've been doing stuff too. I am looking at that shake. I guess this is a big one, that shake platform that shakes you. And evidently it's really good to I have arthritis. That's how old I am. And it's supposed to be good for your joints and circulation, but also helps you lose weight at the same time. So I'm seriously considering the shake plate thing.
So the next podcast when you're shaking.
Yes. If I can't stop shaking, you know why. Not that it's a fad, but you were against hot drinks and you're now.
Yeah, I know. I will say, give a shout out to one of my really good friends, Liz. She's been posting a lot of wellness stuff on her socials, and she talked about the hot lemon water. So I tried it. My throat was a little scratchy, and I tried it, and it actually was very soothing, and it's supposed to help digestion. And obviously, lemon water across the board, hot, cold, is really good for you. So something I'm going to continue to try to do.
See
all of these things. So we're gonna have to do a check-in halfway through the the year to see
Yes,
if
we
we're
gotta
like still on this.
keep
But
going on it.
if anybody has any other tips or things that you think we should try,
Post them
you
on
know,
our socials.
we'll take some
Yes.
tips and tricks too. So send us some
Yes.
tips and tricks.
You could do
But
5, you could do 10, whatever it is. We're always looking for a way to
Exactly.
keep us motivated.
Exactly. So yeah, it'll be good. It'll be fun. It'll be good.
Well, I don't think we're going to ask Clara those tips and tricks when
Yeah.
we get into with her, but we'll look forward to seeing her after these messages.
Are you a loyal 5 Tips and Tricks podcast listener? If not, now is the time to start. Get all your info and fun content on the podcast by following us on all our social channels at @AthCareerPod. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting. Make sure to reach out to us. The one-stop shop for everything is our website, www.athcareer.com. Remember, follow and like us on @AthCareerPod, rate and review us, and get all your info at www.athcareer.com. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Maury, would you like to introduce our guest today?
From Baltimore, Maryland to the heart of College Park, today's guest has built an impressive career in college athletics. After earning her bachelor's degree in communications from the University of Maryland in 2018, she didn't waste any time diving into the world of sports operations. During her time as a student, she was a 4-year operations intern with the men's lacrosse team and helped internships across marketing, development, and ticket offices. Following graduation, she took her talents to the University of Missouri, serving as a marketing assistant during the 2018-19 season, overseeing promotional efforts for multiple sports. By 2019, she was back with the Terps as a marketing assistant for marketing strategy and fan experience, leading initiatives for women's soccer and baseball while supporting men's basketball. In July 2021, she stepped into her current role as Director of Operations for Olympic Sports at Maryland, where she coordinates an extensive day-to-day team logistics for field hockey, wrestling, and men's lacrosse. And along the way, she's earned a master's degree in strategic communications from UNGC in 2022. We are thrilled to welcome to the podcast, Clara Hollander. Welcome, Clara. We're very happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Clara. So nice to have you.
And
thanks.
I'm glad we got to connect because we got to work together through your trips up to Syracuse. So I've been working with you and I thought, hey, this would be an awesome person to come and jump onto the podcast. So thanks for doing this for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me and thanks for thinking of me. You know, when we go to Syracuse with men's lacrosse, it's always a treat for me to work with Maury. He makes everything so easy, and especially in the director of ops role. When we can go on the road and our trips have so many different pieces, that go into it. And when we can just, work smoothly to make sure that both teams are well taken care of, especially on the road, you're not in your home turf. That can be a little daunting sometimes, can be a little scary. But when we're able to, work with great support staff like Maury, it makes our jobs easier.
Well, thank you. That's a wonderful compliment. I really much appreciate it, especially coming from you, because I know you guys go to a lot of great places. So thank you for that. Well, let's get your tips and tricks going. So let's hear what you got going.
Yeah. So, I've been doing this for 5 years now, which is kind of crazy. I love what I do. And, as you said, I was a former student intern. So I love, meeting with interns and talking with those who are interested in the field of athletics, especially in operations. It's super rewarding. You are that person that makes the train move. You make the big things happen by doing all the small things that a lot of people don't see, don't hear about. But, with that comes, my first tip of just to be organized. The director of operations needs to be very organized because, again, you are the person that holds everything together. I think your head coaches will probably call you the glue that keeps it together. And with that, my biggest tip with the being organized is utilizing calendars, whether that is a desktop hard paper calendar, your phone calendar, your email calendar, setting reminders. Technology has really advanced. You can schedule a text out way in advance, couple days, or even just an hour. Just really being organized. I have a notebook. I use my phone and my Gmail, my work calendar, and having them all sync together just really, really helps you because you have a lot of things going on. You have a lot of pieces that numerous departments are also requesting from you. So if you can see all of the pieces, not just what your week is going to be, but 2 weeks down the line, even what a month might be, especially in the ops, if your team is flying, you have to put your flight list in 3 months before the trip. And, you have a deadline to change names. So keeping reminders for yourself will come a long way. And just being organized. We're not perfect, but whether you can just, again, write notes, a notebook, things that you can just see, it'll help you a lot.
I think it's amazing because what you do is so important, but it's so behind the scenes. Because I think that if the person who's the director of ops isn't organized and things aren't together, it makes, and like you said, I meet a lot of people that come up to like, if those people are not organized, it makes a huge difference on how well a team is doing and impacting, because you can tell they're scattered or they're not able to get themselves together. And that starts things off on such the wrong foot. And I appreciate the fact that you're always on it. You're always organized, always doing what you need to do. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do my best.
You're speaking right to me. I try to be the most organized human. Like, it's crazy. Like, and it's across everything. It's not just, obviously operations is super important to be organized, but across the board, making sure like I'm a huge list person of like, these are the things that I need to get done at this time, and then to be able to prioritize. And that just, shows you care, shows you want to do things to the best that you can. And, utilizing that calendar, oh my God, I live and die by that, from like work and personal, like with my kids, and like the calendar like shapes our entire week. So that's so important. And I think people don't realize like how that's a make or break sometimes if you're successful in your job, if you can be organized. So that's a really good one.
Yeah, excuse me, relate so much because I started off in lacrosse operations. Like, that's actually how I started my career. And I know how difficult it can be to like have to think, everybody else is really in that moment. What are they training right now? What are they doing that day? What are you doing? And like you said, you have to be the one that thinks ahead for everybody. You have to be the one that knows the room keys are going to be there when they get there in a couple of weeks, or that the airplane's going to be and what times are taking off and where they're going to eat meals. And a lot of people see what's on the field, but they don't see that hard work that you and your counterparts put in behind the scenes. And it's such a great thing for especially young people that might not know, like you said, all these different roles that exist and how critical what you do plays into it. So that's an awesome first one to start off. And let's get on to your next one.
Yeah, my second tip kind of aligns with that. You have to be organized, but being organized comes with my tip number 2, and that is don't be afraid to ask questions, whether that is with your coaching staff or your support staff or just someone in maybe a different unit. Maybe you want to collaborate, bounce ideas off. But with your director of operations, you have to get tasks done. But with that comes needing answers to these questions. And things have to get done at a timely rate. They need to be efficient, and they need to be thorough, and they need to be well detailed. And you have to be willing to ask the questions. And that means whether you are picking up the phone, sending a text message, sending an email, or just old school walking to somebody's office and say, hey, do you have a minute? I just need a couple answers, or I want to bounce this off of you. You can't sit around and wait for the answers. Sometimes you have to be proactive. And that could even be just kind of prime example, before Thanksgiving, I've already emailed all of our visiting teams, all of the facilities. Maury can attest this. You shoot off those emails and you're kind of organized, but you're also already pre-asking the questions to get the conversations going, to get answers going, so that in your role, you can keep the things that are coming up complete on a timeline that works for either your work pace or what your coaches are going to need. Yeah. We are working not only for your first road trip, but you're also working 2 and 3 down the line in the schedule. Home teams need to know the visiting team's needs coming into it. So you have to just ask these questions already. It can be something as simple as, hey, I've got a team meal coming up. You ask your captains, do you guys have a preference on this meal type? It's important that they're fed, but you also want to select something that they're going to enjoy. We're spending money on it. They want to eat, they love to eat. And you can check off all the boxes, but you have to be willing to ask those tough questions and those uncomfortable questions. They're not always going to be easy, especially the director of operations sometimes have to put out the fires or intercept potential other questions asked back on your questions. So you have to be organized and kind of know the A's, B's, and C's of what those outcomes might be. But you just have to ask them and work through them. And most of the time, everyone just wants to work together. Everyone's team player. And that end goal is to get to the best solution for that whole program.
Absolutely. It's a great point. Were you always felt like you were comfortable asking questions? I feel like a lot of people when they're young, and I'm sure you're experiencing this, like interns are afraid.
Afraid. Yeah, I was just going to say afraid.
So I've always been a very direct person that you can ask any of the coaching staff, any support, if it needs to get done, or if someone's timid to ask the question, they know Clara will just go do it. And, I think, again, I've just established for myself too, of just someone who wants to make sure that our athletes are taken care of. That's why I'm in this role, especially in the operations. You're that person behind the scenes, taking care of your athletes, your coaches, this program, you are the lifeline between parents, alumni, again, your support staff, that they feel comfortable to come to you because they're going to get answers. They're going to get things done. Because again, the goal is to support these programs, make sure these athletes are taken care of. They're there for 4 or 5 years. They're there for reasons. Yes, they're athletes, but also just as a person, we're there to help shape what their next 4 years are going to be like academically and just athletically as well. So I've always been very direct. Sometimes I'm probably a little bit too direct, but sometimes you have to be to just keep things going. Because again, you're there to help these athletes, and you need answers, and people also need answers back.
Right.
So the sooner you can get an answer and, work together, again, all the pieces continue to flow.
Yeah, I was kind of the same boat. Like I was like, we got to get these answers. Someone's got to ask the question. If it's me, it's going to be me. And I feel like a lot of students nowadays are like, well, I might ask the wrong thing, or there really is no way to like get this wrong. Like if you're like, you don't have to be mean about it, right? You can go. I mean, we've had email exchanges where we've had questions for stuff, and I say, oh, we have to adjust this or do things. Like that's the way it works. We work with each other. It's a coordination process. So I think it's great that you're saying jump right in, because I think a lot of times, especially students right now, can be really nervous about it. So great tip.
I mean, we always say, like, to our interns, like, I'd rather have you ask the question than do something wrong and just come up with the answer if you don't know what it is and make it up, because then you're doing more harm than you are good. So I always say that, like, don't ever be afraid to ask me a question a million times as long as you get it right, as opposed to doing something wrong. So
correct. And with that, there's always the time, the place, who's in the room, read the room a little bit.
Absolutely.
There are things that are very time crucial. I've had to run onto a field before because we've had to suddenly a game time might change and we have to change a flight, and you have minutes to change the amount of tickets you can get on a seat for a flight. And there are times where you just have to run out to the field, don't get hit by a ball, but if you can get to your head coach, whether they're on the sideline or in the middle of the field, sometimes you have to do it, but they understand those things because they know this team has to get to where they're going.
Right.
It's got to get done, and they'll work with you, and they're happy that you did, because if the solution and question you're asking can be solved and it works, it's great, no conflicts, they're happy with it. And so sometimes you just have to.
I think that's
and sometimes
also,
you just have to wait.
But that's also, I think, in credit to you and other people that do your job. Like Coach Tillman trusts you, right? He knows who you are. He has that relationship with you, that he knows when you're coming out and doing something on the field, like, oh, this is something we need to address right now, because you've built that up. And that's a huge part of it. You're asking the questions, you're doing the things that need to be done to make a program, a school successful. And that's what those communications and relationships are. So the more you ask questions, the more you build these relationships, the better these outcomes are. So all
Totally.
awesome.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. Number 3. We're number
Number
3.
3. Yes.
Perfect.
Number 3 for me was get to know your staff and those that you work very closely with, whether it is your sports direct assigned support staff member, but also just greater athletic department staff. It doesn't mean you need to know everybody's birthday, favorite color, favorite meal, but specifically with your team's support staff, like get to know them. Like you are going to work so closely with them and building those connections beyond the highs, how was your weekend in the hallway and passing is going to go a long way. We spend a lot of time together, we eat, sleep and breathe, we travel, you're in like same hotel, you're on a bus for like 6 hours with each other. You might be stuck on a tarmac on a plane for 3 hours. We've had that before, but getting to know like how are your kids? Are your kids starting school? What are you doing this summer? What are you doing for the holidays? Building those deeper connections, I think just on a human level, just goes a long way. You build the trust, you build the connections of, hey, this person is really invested in me as a person. I feel connected with them. I can trust them. They're reliable. We might have the same hobbies outside of work. It could be like a lot of staff members love to just go golf. A bunch at Maryland, play pickleball on Tuesdays after work. And, doing those kind of things outside of our day-to-day jobs and building those connections goes a long way. And, even just if they're not your direct support staff, meaning like your marketing, your media relations, your facilities, it also helps because we never know when we're going to need to work with somebody. We're going to collaborate, coordinate, or even just need something from somebody. Maybe you never know. If someone feels like they have a connection with you, they might be able to help you a little bit further than just, oh, I didn't know them. You've showed face, you're there, you're a team player, you're gonna have more team players in your corner.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that. I think that too, it goes back to like Maury said about the relationships. And then when you need it, when you need something, when you have a question, they're way more apt to help you and go through it with you and help you find the answers if you need them, if you've really taken the time to build that relationship, and get to know them, truly get to know them. And then that also helps you kind of, we talk always about like work-life balance and how you find a life outside of your job, and being able to get to know those people and learn a little bit about their lives helps you do that. And then you can tell people about your life, and they get to know about you and kind of what makes you happy and what you enjoy. And that's I think gets lost a little bit sometimes. So it is good to get to know people past just kind of what their daily job is and what they do. So
it's also one of the nice parts about collegiate athletics, right? That you have this big group of people more than, at a pro level where there's usually kind of more siloed in some ways, and you have this opportunity to like build a community that's a little bit different than other communities out there. And so, if your aim is to like be a part of a community and be a part of a bigger group and identify, like that's where college athletics can be just so rewarding. And if that's not what your aim is, then maybe this isn't the right place for you to be, because it really is about relationships. It's about having those times with people, and that's a part of the job. And if that's not what you want to do, then maybe think about a more traditional 9-to-5 job, right? Because that's
exactly.
that's not the way it works. So no, awesome.
Yeah, and I think one of the lying things with collegiate athletics, and maybe even to the pro level as well. But collegiate athletics, I post grad, I moved to Missouri, and I didn't know anybody out there. So I took the time to get to know my staff, get to know people in other departments. And I think more often you in collegiate athletics are going to move to a place where you potentially do not know anybody, especially when you're starting your career,
Mhm.
fresh out of college, kind of at that entry level, marketing assistant, assistant director, assistant ticket office staff. You're young, you don't know anybody, but you're taking the jobs that are going to help you build, those resources, those skills, and you're willing to move wherever, which is also a big piece that I always recommend. Like, you have to be willing to go where the job takes you if you are passionate with it, because also seeing different conferences, different places, you learn and grow just as a person as well. And it helps you to fine tune maybe what you like as well. But getting to know the people around you, especially when you're young, they become your family.
Right.
I was fortunate to get back to Maryland, in my marketing role, and my family is here. But, when I went to Missouri, I challenged myself. I didn't know anybody, and I learned probably the most about myself that I carry even to just how I carry myself now, by be willing to move and not know anybody and push yourself outside of that comfort zone.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Love
Okay,
that.
that was great. Tip number 4. We have 4, or
Yes,
I got it
4.
right?
You're
4.
right. You got it, Maureen.
Four.
It's one of those long days. I got to keep track of numbers today.
Yeah. So my fourth tip was know how to utilize, incorporate different platforms that help you do your job for you to become more self-sufficient. And what I mean by that is utilizing, whether it's for team operations specifically, like your Teamworks, for like recruiting, for your schedules, for your travel. Every staff member, if your school utilizes a platform like Teamworks, all of their profiles. So if you need somebody's cell phone and you're on the road and you can't reach, or you didn't have this person's number yet, you can just look up, hey, who's my ticket person? Here's their cell. And easy. And you kind of were like self-sufficient. You didn't need to ask somebody. Sometimes some people feel bad about bothering someone if it's, a Saturday game, but you have to get answers. So utilizing like platforms that help you do your job, especially like Microsoft Word, Adobe, Photoshop, even if it is not your assigned, if you're not a graphic designer, like I'm not a graphic designer in operations, but having the basic knowledge of how to use different kind of resources will help you, because you will also be very valuable to a coaching staff. There are some things where departments are not able to have a hands-on assist with, especially when it comes to like recruiting or camps. So they will lean on a director of ops to kind of help with those tasks. So to kind of just teach yourself, and look, with technology, you can Google everything of
Exactly.
YouTube videos.
YouTube
it.
videos.
Yeah, YouTube videos.
That's a big
Yep.
one.
Or just even, when it comes to like social media these days, just, you don't have to have every account for yourself for personal use, but just know how does like TikTok work? How does Instagram? What are the different features these days with like Facebook? Just kind of knowing how platforms work. You don't have to personally use them for yourself, but just to know how to use them, so that if your strat-com person is like, hey, should we do this type of post, or this is kind of the trend going on, that you can relay it back to your coach. Because most often coaches are not worried about social media and those
No.
platforms.
Right. No.
They probably don't know how to use any Photoshop, which is totally fine. I don't expect them to. But as a DOP, you kind of are kind of the person who knows all the tricks in and out.
Right. No, that's great. But nowadays for recruiting, like, you have to be aware of those things. If your program isn't engaging and being a part of that, you're out of the mix of being able to have people be interested in you and, make connections and want to get to your program. So that's an awesome tip, and awesome that you're also pointing out these platforms that a lot of people might not be aware of. Like, there are so many management. Teamwork's clearly one of the biggest ones for collegiate athletics, but and actually into the pros now. But if you don't learn it, you're behind. And so be willing to jump in there, get into these platforms, understand how they work, because they do so much for what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you mentioned like Adobe and Photoshop and like graphic design stuff. Like, it's so important, I think, for any student getting into sports, just across the board, to have basic knowledge on that, because it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a graphic designer to know how to use Photoshop. Like, you mentioned like you probably do camp brochures or flyers or stuff like that, and from a recruiting standpoint, whether you're doing ticket sales or doing athletic communications, like in marketing, like me and my team, we're always doing graphic design type stuff. We're nowhere near graphic designers, but we know how to use the program. We know how to change fonts. We know how to cut out players. Like those are just like the basic things to know that can help you, like you said, be super valuable to your coach or to your boss, where you can, hey, take this on, and it might not be your area of expertise, but you can actually contribute something, to what you're trying to work on. So I think that's spot on right there.
Okay, Clara, we're at the
All
end
right.
here. Jen,
All
throw
right,
it out
yes.
there.
Okay, so the last one, Clara, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So what do you know now at this point in your career that you wish you knew when you first started?
Yeah, I wish I knew when I was a student, my time when I was an intern and leading now kind of our internship, what we call our internship program, where we have taken all of departments and kind of in more depth have created backgrounds of what each department is. I wish when I was a student that I knew more in depth of what does each department in collegiate athletics specifically do, and how does everybody work together, because everybody works together on some scale, especially your creative, like your video, your marketing, your media relations, but then also like development works very closely with any alumni event or communication or fundraising for your program. But then ticket sales also works with development, because if you are, let's say, having an alumni event, you are probably going to want to offer tickets to that group, but you have to coordinate with all three departments. When I was just a student or high school, like I knew I always wanted to work in sports, but when I started as a freshman at Maryland, I had no idea what these departments were doing on a larger scale and how they were collaborating and working together to, again, get to that end goal of what the team needed and what was their end goal of what they wanted to put out, that product or that event. And, when you're just kind of a student, you think that it just magically happens. But, marketing has come up with promos, but the promos have to get announced. So they need to work with media relations or stratcom. So I had no idea that those all work together. And now being in my role in the operations, having to work with every single department in some capacity, it's actually very rewarding, because you have this newfound respect of what everybody is doing and the work that really goes into making sure that our programs continue to lead the charge of what their brand is. What is the goal of Maryland athletics, or just any school, any program, anywhere, that people are putting in all of this work to support these programs. When I was a student, I thought they were just fundraising is fundraising and marketing is, throwing out rolled t-shirts. But there was a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. That's I think that's one thing that, Maury and I, when we're interviewing interns for semester long positions or whatever, we always come back to that of like, we just don't think they understand exactly what it is that we do or what exactly our role is. So that's super important, I think, to educate yourself on what each department truly does. And yeah, marketing is fun and we get to roll the t-shirts and do all that stuff, but there's a lot of things that go into that. Same thing with facilities. I know Maury can say there's a lot of things that go into that people wouldn't even have any clue is a part of it. So that's a really good one. I love that.
Well, Clara, I'm looking forward to you all coming up, and
Yes,
we'll host
that's
in
right.
the Terps, and we'll get to say hello when you're up here. So please say hi to everyone down at Maryland for me and Jen, and we'll look forward to seeing you up here.
Thanks
Yes.
so much for having me.
This was great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody for listening. Make sure you're following us on all your socials at Career Pod, and liking and sharing and listening on all the podcast platforms, rating, reviewing, everything. And yeah, new episodes drop every Tuesday. So thank you so much. And Clara, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye everybody.
Bye, everybody.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.